Spoiler warning, guys. Heads up on this. If you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch it. Hey dudes and dudettes, Rich Pollution here, and I got myself a copy of the free comic book day Power Rangers Shattered Grid. So, this comic book is almost like a recap of the Power Rangers series from the beginning. So, it starts out with saying that the Samurai Rangers have fallen, which you can see on this page. Hopefully that works. But it really gets to the point, and it focuses on Alpha 5 and Zrodon. What's interesting about this is, if you ever wanted to know what the morphing grid was like, which I'm sure a lot of us would like to speculate that we know what it's like, well, this actually has a really good rendition of that. So Zrodon is the guy in blue that you can see up here, and he goes into basically what I perceived as the morphing grid while reading this. And there's a red, a blue, and a yellow ranger. And they're actually, it's kind of cool. So at first it looks like they're two different rangers. So red is MMPR, and it looks like maybe, it's tough to tell, that might be Light Speed Rescue. Blue is Mighty Morphin and Blue Time Force. In yellow, the only one I can really make out is the Lost Galaxy Ranger. I'm not 100% sure what the other half is. So when I first saw that, I was like, oh, that's weird. They kind of picked random series to link together. But if you look further, they're actually cycling through the Rangers, which is pretty cool, in my opinion. So I thought that was really cool. So if you're ever interested in knowing what the morphing grid looks like, there you go. But what's interesting is the morphing grid is showing itself in these three Rangers. And Zrodon shows up and he basically says, hey, I need your help. You guys need to save my world that I'm on, which is Earth. And they say, oh, why did you pick Rangers that are unworthy? Well, Zrodon's like, no. These are the most worthy Rangers I have ever chosen. I've lost Rangers along the way, and if you don't help, we're going to lose these Rangers as well. And they push back on him, so he ends up recapping. Okay, here's when I chose these Rangers. They trained really hard, and it goes from when the 5 Rangers were chosen to when they have to fight Tommy and get him back from the evil side. And then he ends up introducing the whole history of Lord Draken. And he basically says, hey guys, you know, you really need to help me out. Can you take Lord Draken's power away? And they basically say, hey, we don't interfere with humans, and we let things run its course. If you think your Rangers are unworthy, you know, maybe you're unworthy. We look forward to you being a part of... Sorry, my dog is now playing with a bucket. And I'm back. We looked, so... They say, hey, maybe you're unworthy as well. We look forward to you as eventually becoming one part of the morphing grid. And basically, he would end up becoming one of these symbols, I guess, these people who are in the cycling ranger suits. But they're basically saying, hey, if you're already asking us for help, you know, clearly you don't know what you're doing. And now my daughter's crying. Bear with it, guys. So, he goes through that whole thing, and they basically, I'll quote the Red Ranger from the Morphing Grid. He says, "This conflict is not ours to become involved in. The Masters set the world in motion and grant those who would do right the power to achieve it. Fear not, the path before Zrodon and his rangers is cyclic. With the struggle between order and chaos rising, falling like the tide, unending, unrelenting, and unbreakable." And the last page is Lord Draken destroying the Morphing Grid. Now, depending on how you read that, it could be perceived two different ways. It could be perceived as the people who are in the Morphing Grid, or the beings, whatever you want to call them, who are in the Morphing Grid. Stop it. Who are in the Morphing Grid believe they should just let it take its course and it will work itself out. Or perhaps the people in the Morphing Grid, sorry guys, or perhaps the people in the Morphing Grid actually believe that they have everything under control. But that's not the case. Lord Draken has just shattered the Morphing Grid. So, it's really, really interesting, this read. Although it's a recap, it does give you a lot of backstory to Zrodon and backstory to the Morphing Grid, which you wouldn't see without the free comic book. That said, if you do not get your hands on it, I don't think you'll be missing anything from the story, really, because it really is mostly a recap. And if you've read all the comic books leading up to this, then you have already seen this. So, yeah. Overall, I think it's really, really an enjoyable read, even for her recap, which, if anybody knows about Power Rangers, the recap episodes are always the ones you skip. This is written in a fashion that you don't want to skip it because it's actually interesting. It adds more depth to Zrodon's character, adds more depth to the history of the Morphing Grid. So if you can get one tomorrow on Free Comic Book Day, that would be awesome, and I think you would really enjoy it. If you can't, I wouldn't stress out about it. I was going to go crazy trying to go to multiple places to try and find one, but I happened to get one. So, yeah. On that note, I'm Rich Pollution. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, I do a lot of Power Ranger stuff. I'm really getting into the comic book reviews, so if you're into that kind of thing, less of a recap, more of a review usually. Definitely subscribe to this channel to stay up to date on that. On that note, be excellent to each other. See you later, dude and dudettes.